Dragger, an original novel by Robert Napier, narration and images powered by AI. Chapter 17, The Unmistakable Sound of Blood. Lo was certain she misheard. One of her pirates staggered into the tent, sweating and breathless. "War ghouls," he panted. "Out of the dark. They're here already." Kachaba sounded the alarm, instantly gathering pirates to his side. Lo rushed out of the tent to survey the shore. The streets were deathly silent, except for the rhythmic tapping of loose rigging. She squinted in the twilight, scanning the boardwalk for trouble. She felt a sense of relief when she spotted the town patrol coming up the alley. They were Crussian whites, not exactly warriors, but they gave a sense of normalcy. But then, there were more of them than usual. She thought, maybe her imagination. But Dex came out behind her, slipping her hand around Lo's elbow. It was an unusual gesture from the girl. Lo didn't make a big deal out of it. Together, they watched the silhouettes of the patrol merge with the shadows that marked the end of town and the edge of her camp. The flickering street lamps couldn't reach into that small hollow between the hostelry and the riverbank lodgings. A fast slash of steel caught the hot orange of the bonfire. Then, the unmistakable sound of blood pattering heavy on the boardwalk. The patrol was ripped apart by overlapping figures. They came from above and below simultaneously, with singular purpose. They cut and stabbed with hidden claws and hooks, their ghostly visages vanishing in gore and darkness. "No!" cried Dex. "Come on," said Kochaba. "The others are boarding." Dex and Lo turned quickly and headed down a dirt path. Dex dared to look over her shoulder and saw the war ghouls moving like shadows, gliding over crates and barrels, climbing and tumbling with unnatural speed. 1,000 times, she'd seen the Callows training for this in the scaffolding of the Thrash. She recognized the bulk of Bludge and the slice of Ixulingo. The Callows had made it to Slow Smile, but there were other war ghouls here she had never known, and they wouldn't hesitate to kill her. Lo and Dex followed Kachaba for a few blocks until they crested a small embankment and saw where the Arvendur met the Sea of Vin. Moored in the cove was a gaunt, patchwork pirate ship. Dex had never seen Lo's ship before, or any ship, but she was frankly unimpressed. "Are we going on that?" she asked, unsure how it was supposed to work. "Run like hell, sis." Lo Sano was quick up the boarding ramp. "This is my baby. She's faster than she looks." The carrion eater reminded Dex of a wooden training sword. The height and thickness varied everywhere. The front quarter of the ship was tiered, leading up to a craning bird-like figurehead, while the heavier back end had a wooden fort. There were stubby galleries on either side of the structure, where 4 oars stuck out, like the feet of a cane crawler. The fort tapered down into a roofed colonnade, much like the gore shed. And then, off the roof of the fort, came 2 enormous paddles that were folded back like duck wings. There was 1 mast with furled sail. Dex scratched her face nervously. Kachaba rushed to Lo, urging the others to follow. "Welcome aboard," she said enthusiastically. The lean, sparse craft was cluttered with peculiar junk, with heavy shields hung sporadically on the outside rail. Lo, Kachaba, and the rest of the Rillers prepared the rigging. Mounted war ghouls appeared overlooking the cove. They dismounted and readied their spears to charge. Lo saw them rushing toward her ship. Several of them held back to hurl javelins at her. 3 spikes landed in succession, sticking in the rail and deck, barely missing her body. She dodged and came back with 2 crossbows she kept handy for these occasions. She snapped a couple hissing shots. "Kiss my ass," she wailed, but didn't hit anything. It was enough to make the javelineers disperse. The ship's sail fluttered down, eager to catch the wind as Kachaba spun the wheel. "Boo! Get us out of here!" Oh, marvelous. I'd forgotten how much I hate sailing. Rowan crouched down beside Lo while she reloaded her crossbow and cursed the muck-lugging lodge skimpers. Wait! Someone shouted from the shore. "It's Rux!" cheered Dex. He was running hard to catch up. "Wait! Can't wait, kid! Keep running!" Rux lowered his head and plowed forward. He banked left as more javelins fell at his heels. He vaulted off the dock into the water and came up swimming toward the ship. "You can make it," urged Dex. "You're a great swimmer." Rowan and Kachaba heaved Rux over the railing, and they all fell down in a soggy pile. "How did you get past those ghouls?" asked Rowan, panting, and not particularly pleased to see him. "I'm one of them, remember?" He looked at Dex and held out his hand. She laughed and shivered and helped him up. The singular sail rose above the slum dwellings, and the ship broke for open water. Kachaba barked something broken at Lo, and she took the wheel. Dex couldn't make sense of any of it. "That's not just some scouting party," snapped Lo at Rowan. "Those war ghouls were looking for us," said Dex. "They're trying to kill us. We can outrun them. Angle the sail." The carrion eater pulled away from the slow smile docks, while the war ghouls remounted and rode off over the embankment. Dex saw the wide mouth of the Hurrian River open before them. "They're going to cut us off," she fretted. "You call this an escape?" asked Rowan placidly. "I thought this wreck was fast. Watch your mouth, or you're rowing home. We'll be fine, probably." Lo watched Slow Smile vanish in the mist. She was strangely unnerved by the war ghouls. She had been to Gnarl's Stead a dozen times, but never seen them in murderous action. This was Drager's horrific vision. She took a few deep breaths. She reminded herself she was headed back to the river, doing what she did best. "All right, you have us aboard," sighed Rowan, resting his elbow on Arlu's shoulder. "Now, what is this beyond treasure nonsense?" "A rescue," said Geyer, as he yanked one of the war ghouls' savage javelins from the railing. "Oh, you're here too, are you? I'm glad." "Shojin faced disaster upon catastrophe," he said, looming over Rowan. "Now is the season of pilgrimage." Arlu put her palm on Geyer's arm. He gently lifted it with his hand and brought it towards his face. It was a gesture Dex had seen between Drager and Ruby, but instead of kissing it, Geyer softly bit her finger. Arlu smiled in such a way that Dex had never seen, and made her look more closely at the chieftain and wonder. "I think," interrupted Rowan, "what the doctor is trying to say is, what's that got to do with us?" Losano came up beside them. The cool moonlight off the river drew them closer into a circle. "Every year," began Geyer, "journey made from Ixasi to glades of God's hollow west, where Shojin, many, there in marshes, gods convene." Arlu shook her head at Rowan. She drew zigzags in the air with her finger. Rowan agreed. "So where are we going exactly?" "Darken, Krushin's call." Rowan rubbed his temples. As in recently annexed by the Crush, as Innswamps drained, forests burned, people enslaved, martial law forbidden to outsiders, that Darken. "Same," Rowan waved at Lo. "Give me a paddle." "Why?" "I'm rowing home." "Hold on, Prince. Where are the pilgrims? Do we have to pick them up? I don't know if we'll have time with those ghouls up our ass." "They have gone." "You mean they're already there, or?" "The chosen were among those slain upon the moors. Nephews mine, Escher, Roya, Vegas. They make supplies to leave mourning this." Dex winced at the names. The only way Prince Geyer could know about the slain on the moors is if the Rillers told him. She slid behind Rowan, wondering how best to disappear. He didn't mind how close she clung to him. He could only imagine how bewildering and lonely this new world must be. Dex could bear all the pains of the thrash and the sty, but felt like screaming when she heard his name. She began to hate Vegas, how he hovered over her. Why did his name sting her to the bone? What would the others do to her? If they knew, wouldn't she deserve whatever their wrath designed? No, she mustn't even think it. No. She was a coward. She deserved to suffer. She clutched at her heart as it drilled into her throat. There, she felt the small pouch around her neck. When the pain subsided, she realized they were looking at her. She met Prince Geyer's eyes. He was not as big as Drager, but she sensed the same pride and danger from him. Geyer stared down at her, assessing her like a little girl, not as a fighter. Dex did not shrink from his gaze, though. She was used to being judged harshly. She was startled by a sudden gesture from his large hand. Geyer pointed aggressively at her, and his voice thundered, "Who are you? That carries death and medicine." Dex didn't understand what that meant, and she prepared to meet whatever punishment was customary among the Shojin. Arlu pushed Geyer's hand aside and gently touched the small purse Dex clutched in her hand. She instantly turned away from Geyer, as if protecting the pouch. It was a gift from a friend. "Sacred, my people. Not for Joe's or Don's. Shojin so," said Dex reflexively. "Freedom, like moon and heart." Geyer couldn't decide whether to be impressed or outraged. You speak Jin, yet carry hate. Once again, Arlu had to show her what the warlord meant. She pointed to the sentry sword tucked in Dex's belt. It was a distinctive blade, and old. Dex slowly drew it out for Geyer to see. Blade of Lorik. Enemy old. Long ago, Lorik's come to destroy Yinva, to drive us into sea, murder and burn us. Left to die, just as Crush do now. Yet witness, Lorik's long gone. Shojin, forever. "I'm sorry about that," she said. "I didn't know. My home was burned too. I didn't mean to upset anybody. It's a sword is a soul, and a knife is a life," she said. For the first time, she tried to piece together what Lo and Trek had taught her. It felt wrong to leave it. She returned the sword to her side and stood square with the prince. Geyer was not pleased. Death and medicine, moon and heart. They say Wargul has no soul. You too many. Are you Lorik or Don, Jin or Joe? "Which reminds me," coughed Rowan. "Where in the amber blazes is my sword?" "I was meaning to talk to you about that," said Lo, with a twist of her white blonde hair. "You better tell me everything this time. Your precious little whacker is fine. It's, in my chamber." "Well," said Rowan, noticeably straightening, "now that we have some time to regroup, we had better go get it." Lo started towards the cabin, her hair and her hips swaying with the ship. Rowan mumbled something to Kochaba, apparently indicating that he should look after Dex for a while. "Don't worry about them," said Kochaba, setting his bare paw of a hand on Dex's head. "They're still negotiating." "What now?" she asked, as she struggled to lift Boo's hand off her head. "Now, we go to Ranokan." Dex gasped. "You mean the forbidden pirate hideout?" Kochaba laughed heartily. "That's the place. The very place." "Are you sure Ranokan is a real place?" "Oh, it's real enough. Your daddy ain't the only one with a secret fortress. How come no outsider has ever seen it? And the Krush have never found it." "The more oversee," said Prince Geyer, "the more overlook." "We'll be there soon, little fox," said Kochaba, grinning. "And you may see for yourself." Geyer was grave as ever. "And what of the Dragger's ghouls from the dock? It'll take them hours to move overland, and they have only Krushan horses. We will be safe, at least for the night." "In Ranokan?" asked Dex. "Yes, in Ranokan." The carrion eater passed the mouth of the Hurrian River, which meant they were officially in Krushan waters. Though it was cold on deck, Dex preferred to sit against the rail. Whenever she couldn't see the horizon, she felt certain the ship was sinking. The moonlight painted a ghostly trail on the choppy water. Only where the reflection went dark could Dex see the outline of land. She was nearly asleep, sitting up, when Lo threw a blanket over her. She was disoriented at first, but grateful for the sudden warmth. Lo sat down beside her, and shortly thereafter, Rowan appeared. The polarity of their presence was comforting to Dex, not like Dragger and Ruby, but there was something comforting about it, even as the carrion eater creaked and sloshed. "What are you doing out here, Deedles?" "Nothing. Keeping a sharp eye for Krushan patrols, I suspect," winked Rowan. "Yeah, I guess so. I hope so," said Rowan, sitting down on the other side of her, as pirates were guaranteed to be hanged. "Shut up, Rowan," Lo hissed. "What's the matter with you?" "I was only going to say that we don't have to worry about that." "Oh, were you?" "As Jozen supporters, we are far more likely to be flayed alive and rolled into the salt bottoms." Dex laughed at that, even though she'd heard it before. The fact was, she didn't fear the Krushans at all. only father. He had said 100 times, or more, 1,000 times, that he would always find her. That family is inseparable. He had told them all. At one time, that had comforted her, helped her feel like she wasn't alone, and that someone would always be there, or come for her if she was lost. But now, she knew it for what it was. A threat, promise, and a threat. They were all trapped. All the children of Dragar, and the whole world, was Gnarlstead.